Thank you.
Cool.
Hey, Jolene.
Hi, Eric. Nice Ember mug in the background. I see.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Or you got yours?
I do. I have our rose gold.
Went with the standard black, the 14 ounce, the mug too.
That's a fan favorite for sure. Yeah.
I love it. So, no, it was great speaking with you earlier this week. I'm an Ember user. It's part of my household life. So it was cool to hear your perspective, the vision, all the things that Ember's doing, now and I mean to come. I'll let you break any news if there is any. But no, I mean, so for everyone out there, I'll let Jolene introduce herself. As the head of, global marketing and e-commerce for Ember, but just as the moderator for this panel, continuing on the sessions for brands at home. My name's Eric Shoicket. I work at Audigent, where I run our sales and brand sales and agency sales. So I guess for all those who are unfamiliar with Audigent, we're a next generation DMP. We have a different take on what the kind of boring DMP used to be. There hasn't really been a lot of innovation on the DMP side in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So we're changing that as we speak. And we have a ton of innovative products and trademark data products that are actually helping us to build the future of this cookieless identity that everyone's talking about. So happy to say that we're involved in that, future-proofed and helping future-proof, other brands out there as well. So we like to call ourselves a data agency. We partner with thousands of different publishers, like as big as Condé and Warner Music, Universal Music, Penske Media, and we act as like this monetization engine for their valuable data. And we're also a strategic media partner to brands and agencies alike, so they can use us as this audience activation partner with all of these great sets of first-party data that we own. So, sorry, had to do that as the moderator. Enough about me, Jolene. Let's get to you, who everyone's here to see. So, can you tell us a little bit about you, your job, your role, what you're focused on? Would love to hear about it.
Sure. So, hi, everybody. So, my name is Jolene Abbott, and as Eric said, I head global marketing at Ember, as well as all of our e-commerce. And let's see, where to start? You want a brief life story?
Yeah, I could sorry to interrupt. I loved your story of obviously what you're doing now, but where you came from, because I think it's both, like, I thought your old job was cool, and now I think this job is even cooler. So yeah, it's up to you. That's just me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, of course. I'll give you, so I think I have a slightly unique route to how I got to this role too, and my path. And I personally always love hearing different people's paths of how they got to where they are. So I actually started on the agency side, which I think is an incredible way to start your career and really cut your teeth and get a ton of work experience and exposure. So I started in kind of PR events and marketing agencies, and then did that for many years, and it was incredible, and worked with all kinds of best-in-class brands, from CB2 to Land Rover, Jaguar, Tag Heuer. So it was a lot of fun, but over the years, I really wanted to be on the other side and understand what it was like in-house at a brand, and have a little bit more insight into those decisions that were getting made versus on the agency side, where you're kind of getting the information and really, executing. But I wanted to really understand all of the different pieces of company, how it all fits together, and have that experience, and also work in-house for a really big brand. And so that was the kind of springboard of why I wanted to move I went over to Skechers. I'm based in Los Angeles. Skechers is in the South Bay in Manhattan Beach. Fabulous location. I had a terrible commute along the coast every single day. So I went over to Skechers, and a lot of people don't realize that Skechers is a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the largest footwear companies in the US. And it was a lot of fun and exciting, because I was able to work on launching different divisions within Skechers and really propelling this new performance division of footwear. So I worked with a lot of athletes, got a lot of exposure to golf and the running community and marathons, and a lot of travel, and really kind of building that arm of the company, and just seeing how a global kind of household brand really runs. And it was a lot of fun and really fascinating. But then I think, the next move was really, as I saw how a big company can scale and grow, I wanted to do the complete opposite and go work at a startup and see, well, how do you get here? And I wanted to understand, how to build a brand from the beginning and how to build a company from the ground up. So I got this fantastic opportunity to come over to Ember, and I met with Clay Alexander, the inventor and founder. And you just sit with 5 minutes with Clay and he's got you hooked. I mean, his vision for the company and the growth and how big Ember is going to be was really exciting and fascinating. And he already had the vision laid out from the very beginning, starting with the Ember mugs, but then beyond what the other products would be. So yeah, I went over and got my, we've kind of gotten out of those early startup days now, but it is a wild ride, and it is definitely not for the faint of heart, but it is exciting and fun, and you learn an enormous amount. So yeah. And then from there, I started actually on a communication side, and then grew into my current role of leading the marketing team, and then also leading our global efforts as well. So here I am today.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I commented when we talked, oh man, you got to work with like Tony Romo and marathoners and other people. Now it's
Demi Lovato, who, interesting enough, we worked with her at Skechers, and she was one of the early investors at Ember as well.
Yeah, no, it is cool. I mean, that's the stuff I love. I'm a sports fan. I love that type of stuff. But awesome. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Audigent is, it's growing fast, but we're 50 plus people at this point. And I've been at companies as large as CBS and Yahoo. But yeah, you're right. You get thrown into the fire, quick decisions. You hold yourself accountable, and it's fun. I mean, look, we just saw Microsoft on stage. They're pretty big, right? So as far as when you started and the vision that Clay had then, does it remain the same now? I mean, I watched some of his videos, and you can tell he has all the passion in the world in terms of his ideas on what temperature means to the world or a person or a house. Are things different now, 4 years later, that you've been working here?
Yeah, I mean, things now that we were talking about and inventing are now starting to come to fruition, which is really exciting. But the mission and the values and that vision are all the same. And if anything, it's actually just continued to grow. But Clay, by nature, he is a visionary, and he's one of those just incredibly rare founders who he knew exactly what he wanted to create from the beginning, and he saw how big Ember would be. And I think that's what gave us such a competitive edge, whereas a lot of companies, grow into that, or they, had kind of a smaller seed of an idea and then it grows. Like Clay already had this kind of foundation laid out, and he had multiple inventions and patents of products that we will be launching in the early days. And so, but the reason we went with the Ember mug initially as our first kind of go-to-market product is because of the, adaptability and the breadth of nearly every human in the world drinks some sort of hot beverage, whether it is coffee or tea or even warm water or hot chocolate. And so it was just, it just made a lot of sense to go out with a product that is just very widely used. But the vision of all of the different categories and the different verticals that Ember was going to, or is going to take our temperature control technology and put it into, was always there from the beginning.
Yeah, do his kids really come into the office a lot?
Yeah, Charlotte, she is so cute. She does, absolutely. I mean, she actually has a little bird, and I kind of miss things like that since we haven't been in the office for about a year. She has this tiny little bird that she would have come into the office, and it would be on her shoulder, and she'd walk around the office with this little bird. She rides her bike throughout. I mean, she would sit in meetings all the time. She's going to be, I think she's like, could probably be an incredible CEO or founder someday. She's learning so much as a young girl, but she has her own little office in the back, and
I may start bringing my 4-year-old to meetings. The reaction is, yeah.
You should. I mean, it's just fun, right? And it adds it just lightens the mood a little bit, when you have kids or when people can bring in their dogs every so often. I think it just adds a little bit of that kind of energy that you need, especially in a startup when you're working so hard and the hours are long, and things can get a little bit intense. Having those moments are really, really important to kind of break up the day. But yeah. She's an absolute doll.
They're human moments. I love that. I love to hear about that. I'm a big culture person, and that it means
that's awesome.
So, the theme being brands at home. I feel like, Ember is a brand that has, most likely thrived during this time. But for the last year, we've been in this pandemic, and most of us have been doing our best to stay safe and quarantine. What has the pandemic meant to a brand like Ember Technologies?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we didn't know what would happen with Ember, to be honest. In the very beginning, I think everyone was just still figuring out moment by moment, even hour by hour, what are we doing? Are we all moving from home? What's happening? What does this mean for the company? And so, we didn't know what would happen, but at the end of the day, we started seeing kind of just that consumer behavior of what life was going to look like at home pretty quickly early on. And Ember was just positioned to kind of be there and be that perfect kind of work from home accessory, or that kind of must-have item that you add on your desk that was able to just create a small little kind of luxury in your new work from home day. And I give a lot of credit to our PR team who saw that movement, I think, a lot faster than and truthfully faster than I did, because we were still in the office. Many companies were still in the office when our head of PR came to me and she's like, I think we really need to start switching our messaging and really lean into work from home right away. And we did that very, very quickly. And I think that gave us a strong competitive advantage in that space of your kind of work from home essentials. Ember was one of the first ones I saw out there kind of getting mentioning, as people were like, what do I do? Do I need to get a new desk set up? Are we bringing our current office belongings home, or are we getting new stuff? And I think there was just this, a lot of kind of questions. And we had that at our office. I mean, everyone kind of grabbed a lot of their belongings, but then as you settle into your day to day, you're like, oh shoot, I actually do need a monitor, or I should have grabbed X, Y, and Z. And you're kind of restructuring your new space a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully all these companies put, they've numbered all their products that people have brought home to their houses. I love how you put it as one of life's little luxuries. It totally is. Look, when I think about, do I need an $80 mug? Probably it's not life-changing, but it really makes things a lot better. I sit at home and all day, I just heard on the last set of questions in the last session, how have you detached in work life compared to home life? And it's hard because you're always on. You're there. Your office is upstairs or in your room. Who knows where it is? And it's there are Zooms all day, and maybe you go downstairs and your kids are there and your coffee's cold. If I can come back up, and I think we talked about it, it's kind of shocking when you have your hot coffee. You come back and it's ice cold, but there's no ice in it. Almost like when you have a seltzer and there's no bubbles left in it. You're like, oh, that's not right. So This is one of those nice little things that makes, that moment in my life and many people's lives better. I love the way you kind of frame that. Because I think at the beginning of the pandemic, you saw a lot of brands freeze. Oh my God, what is right now? I am a fast food restaurant. What do we do? Do we push online ordering, curbside delivery? And how long did that take? So with your PR team, as you were just saying, was it do you feel like they were right on that? It just makes sense. We're going to be at home. This is something that will make life a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so even in our earlier messaging, we would talk about Ember being, perfect for at home or office. And so we had that narrative and already kind of built in, because we were already leading into that home space and work or on the go. So we kind of had those three pieces of those three different narratives that we were already using. And we just, switch the or at office to your home office. And so, but you're right, we moved so fast. And I think I might have mentioned, we saw some other brands still, I saw ads running with like people outside or outdoors. And this was when everyone was on lockdown. And so not everyone moved that quickly or maybe had the capabilities to do that. And I remember noticing it, I'm like, wow, that's way off message right now. And this was kind of during the heat when I think, people were nervous and it was confusing. And so, I think that quick action, and even, I saw that with other brands who built e-commerce sites so fast. And those are the brands that really thrived. And it's scary. And I think it is easier when you're a smaller company and you're able to be more nimble and make those very fast decisions. So I will say it can be easier for smaller companies than larger enterprise brands that might have to do it. But that is, I think it's a lesson for everyone of that need to be able to, whatever you need to put in place to be able to make very, very, very quick decisions when needed.
Yeah. And I applaud you in Ember, because there were certainly, look, you're right. Things weren't built. Who knew this would happen? Some people thought it would end in a couple of weeks, and here we are. So kind of coming out of it now. So it's nice. It's awesome that you guys, got it together and thought about that, because, look, if I can have something that makes me 5% happier or 100% happier in a given moment, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I kept coming back to. I always put myself in the, I am a consumer, right? So I always think about it from my point of view as well. And it's just like a small thing in your day. We talk a lot about, which you've probably seen in the news, there's a lot about your morning ritual, about, how do you create these just little moments of peace for yourself? And we were talking about even that separation between your morning and then starting your day. And Ember, I think fits so well into that, where it's a time where you can just sit, even if it's for a few minutes, and just enjoy, that perfect cup of coffee that you made. And then the other piece is everyone was now making coffee at home a lot more. Coffee shops were closed. You didn't have your office coffee to go, refuel on. Not everyone is probably used to making coffee at home. So we started also putting out a lot of content. If you're not sure, here's how you can make the perfect pour over or the perfect French press. And here's how you do it. And here's some kind of tips and tricks.
Is that something you guys have focused more on, creating content?
Yeah, 100%. We did a whole kind of how-to series, and even kind of, demystifying the difference between a flat white and a latte. And it was just fun because people were becoming at-home baristas, and you were seeing, a surge in a lot of, coffee machines and people buying coffee at home and not really knowing the difference between different beans and things like that. Because you would just go to your local coffee shop in the morning or grab your cup at the office. And in the morning, I think most people just maybe made standard drips, but when you're home all day and you really want that latte or you want a cappuccino and you want something else, we wanted to kind of help give that content to people to say, here's how you can basically be your new at-home barista.
Yeah, I love that. Another reason to come to the site, obviously, and kind of be a part of, the Ember family.
Yeah.
You would think, in working at home, you'd save money on the coffee and the lunch or breakfast or whatever. But then to your point, I go out and I buy a grinder, I want to grind my own coffee so it's fresher. And it's everyone becomes their own barista. And then all of a sudden you're spending more than, I don't want the bag of $7.99 coffee. I want $12.99 with a new grinder and my awesome cup. So here we are.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted to go back to something you mentioned with quick decisions and people building e-commerce sites. Talk about what something that you head up, the e-commerce side of Ember. I see that the Ember footprint has mainly been US centric, but I was wondering if a push towards online commerce has gotten out to countries abroad too.
Yeah, that's a great question. You're absolutely right. Primarily with e-commerce specifically, we saw most of our growth in the US, and it still is. US is very strong. But some unexpected, we saw big surges in the in EU, specifically in the UK, mainly on our Amazon business. We've seen incredible growth there, and as well as Canada, a lot of growth there as well on our e-commerce. To date, a lot of our global footprint has been brick and mortar. And now that's something that we're currently expanding this year, is how do we really kind of refine our e-commerce worldwide. So that's a big initiative for this year. And it's a little bit harder to do quickly, but it's something that we see the demand is there. For example, right now we're in 27 countries worldwide, and that was when we launched with Apple. Which was a really big moment especially for a younger brand. We went global very quickly. I mean, there's still some brands that have been around for, 10, 20 years that are just going international and launching in Canada. And so for a young brand to go worldwide that quickly, I think was really meaningful. But even though we are technically sold in 27 countries, we're active in over 150 countries, meaning that we can see users from the app, since we are a connected device, in 150 countries using Ember.
That's how you get them. That's how you get the data. Yeah.
Well, and we see the demand, and it's really helpful because now it helps us inform, because you can't go, it's very difficult to go everywhere all at once. You and I were talking about to kind of be all things to everyone at the same time. So you have to prioritize. And so it's a way for us to see what makes sense. Like, where is that demand? What countries make the most sense for us to go and expand in? So, it really is insightful. It's like, how can we use some of that information to just to be there and better serve our customers and make better products.
Yeah. So when, were people coming to you naturally or organically, or were you marketing in other countries, when you started to see the uptick in e-commerce?
So primarily e-commerce has been, most of it is in the US right now. But when we did launch with Apple, we went to China and we did a big press tour, and the response was incredible. The editors loved it. Clay and I went, our founder Clay, we went with, met with editors and really understood the market. We did launch on Tmall. We also have launched at the roastery in Shanghai. And so, we do see the demand is there, but there is still room, and that's something that we're looking at. We do see an enormous amount of white space internationally to really grow, not only on, Amazon, Tmall and other channels in Asia. So there's a lot of opportunity for us this year.
Yeah, no, it's obvious. I mean, what's not to love? So like, for instance, you were saying some of the places like Apple. So I see your product in places like Apple or Best Buy or Target, Costco, Starbucks. So you started in stores. I think you said you went from like 100 Starbucks to 4,600. But with that said, like, and I found this part of our conversation to be interesting. Ember can't market to everyone at the same time. And it's challenging when you have a product really that can fit anyone. I mean, who doesn't want to keep their coffee or tea warm? So I guess my question is, from the stores that it's at and what Ember is to anyone in their home or work or traveling life, like, what is Ember and to whom? Like, who is the Ember customer?
Yeah. So that's what we thought about, and very early on, of course. And you can even see that thought process in our launch strategy and our retail launch strategy, as you said. So we did initially launch with Starbucks, as you mentioned, which makes sense, as one of the biggest and best coffee brands in the world, because we knew that right out of the gate, that credibility for a new company and a new product that didn't exist before was really important to us. And it was really important that we had a strong partner to get that retail presence right out of the gate. And as you mentioned, we went from 100 stores to 4,600 very quickly. That was a big that was like, that first breakout moment for Ember. And from there, the other, outside of like coffee aficionados and that coffee world is early adopters and people that are really comfortable with new technology. I even remember when, the smart voice speakers came out, like Alexa, there was a certain amount of people that jumped on those right away, and then others were kind of slower to kind of get comfortable. And do I need this? And so that person who's really open and more comfortable with bringing in and trying new technology made a lot of sense for us. So hence, as going into Apple was a perfect place for us. And that was one of our earlier retailers, as well as Best Buy. And if you think about the demographic of the Best Buy and the Apple customer, it's a very tech comfortable person. Yep. And we saw that even in our e-commerce sales. A lot of our e-commerce sales, when we launched the Ember travel mug and then also the Ember mug, were very much so kind of the Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Los Angeles in the very beginning. And that makes sense because there's just a certain type of person that's open and an early adopter. And then as you see, as we grow and we got more brand awareness and more people tried Ember and we were starting to get that word of mouth, which has been so invaluable. Even kind of hearing you speak about it is once you try it, it kind of clicks. And then you're like, oh, now I know I needed this whole time. And so as we're getting that more kind of broader adoption, we also are launching and, launched in Target chain-wise, went into all 1,800 Target stores this past fall. Bed Bath & Beyond, we just launched on westelm.com a couple days ago. So it's much more broad as the consumer is getting much more comfortable with this type of like tech-enabled smart coffee cup.
Right. So you talk about in-store, your e-com site, so you can either push people to store or push people into your e-com site. I mean, what are the channels that work best for you as far as, your brand and who you market to and how?
Yeah. So for our, for Ember.com, I mean, a lot of our digital marketing efforts do drive to Ember.com, but I love supporting our retailers and letting them, however we can support them, whether it is, participating in their holiday gift guides or email campaigns or other digital marketing efforts that they're doing. Because the way I see it is like those bigger retailers know their customer a lot better than I do. They have all, they're much better at targeting their customers. So it makes more sense for how can we support the retailers and support them in marketing to their customer and let them do that. And then we focus on driving our marketing efforts on our digital to Ember.com, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how we separate the channel. However, it's great to let our customers know where they can get Ember. So, on social, when we launched at Target, we're like, now available at Target. So we want people to shop wherever they want to shop and make it as easier as possible. And everyone, there's folks like that only shop on Amazon or, love going to the brand page and shopping direct there. Or maybe you're kind of in a rewards program. And so I think it's important to let your customers know everywhere that you're available and let them pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's nice to hear like, a brand in general leaning on their partners and them knowing their stores or, ways to sell and that type of stuff. Like, so like in terms of data, right? In the role that plays, like with Audigent, right? We use data in so many different ways where we have code down on, all of these millions and millions of web and mobile pages. So we understand, where a person is coming from and, what they're reading or clicking on or hovering over, or time spent. And it's all, if you're reading lots of articles about, back to school, you're probably someone who is shopping for back to school, stuff like that. So how does a brand like Ember kind of ingest and use data from literally the actions on your site or the shopping behavior or the e-com behavior? Like, what's the role that data plays with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere, as you just said. And so I think it's really important to be so incredibly thoughtful about it. And also, we're still building our, digital team and still growing. I think there's a lot of space for us to just learn more about our customer. And that's something that we're definitely, that we're definitely looking into and growing. And it's an area that we need to do a little bit more in. But right now it's also just like, a lot of listening to what our customers are asking for. So for example, even on social media, we just over and over kept hearing everyone wanted a larger mug. And we originally launched with the 10 ounce. I know you got the 14 ounce, but the reason we launched the 14 ounce, it was not on the product roadmap. It's not something we thought about or looked at until we kept hearing it over and over and over again. And so we launched it, and lo and behold, it is our biggest selling product. So I think for us, it's, especially when you're newer, is really listening to your customer. But then of course we are an app enabled. So we do have information, just, basic kind of behavior that we can see. And one good example of that is when we initially launched, we set the mug's temperature to 130 degrees. And if you don't have an Ember yet, that doesn't really mean anything to you. And it might actually sound pretty hot, but that was kind of the average deep drinking temperature from our research, kind of that middle average drinking temperature. And then after we launched, we saw most people were drinking it at 135 degrees pretty consistently. That was everyone's kind of like the go-to average. And so we updated all of the firmware in our mugs out of the box to be set at 135. So that way it was, more on par with the average. So that's just kind of one way that we've used data in a really smart way to just, kind of better serve the experience of having an Ember mug, and how can we make it even easier for you. So that way, if you don't change the temperature and you just start using it right out of the box, it's already set at kind of like the ideal temp for you.
Yeah, no, that's great. See that, that's like, that is custom to you guys. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And with your customers, like, what does customer loyalty look like for you guys? Are there programs, or what is that for Ember?
Yeah, we don't have a loyalty program yet, but what's interesting is we see a lot of people purchase Ember as a gift. And I think it is because of, it is premium, it's interesting, it's new. And so it is that perfect gift, because most likely the gift recipient doesn't have one, nor do they think they need it. And it's funny, right? Sometimes we won't spend money on ourselves, but we will absolutely in a heartbeat spend it on someone else for something that you're like, oh, I don't really need that, or I don't need to buy it for myself.
Yeah,
but I'll
Mother's Day,
buy,
everybody, Mother's Day is coming, so don't forget.
Yeah, exactly. And we have this new rose gold mug that we just launched. We launched it specifically in time for Mother's Day, but which has actually become our top selling metallic mug in the collection right out of the gate.
So now people can ask for all of these other like pastels and other colors.
Yep. I mean, and I love that too. It's a lot of fun. We do have some new things coming out this fall. I know we were kind of chatting a little bit about what's coming up down the pipeline, but we will have some new stuff. I can't share too many specifics, but there will be some fresh new things for fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before I get to a few questions, the usages of, as your CEO Clay was saying, with temperature. I mean, I know that other things I'm sure are on the horizon. I can only imagine at a company like yours. It just seems like there's so many places and areas and types of industries this could work in, because again, temperature is part of our life in every respect. So is there a bigger part of Ember, in the future?
Yeah, I would say in the very near future as well.
Put it here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, going back to what we were talking about with the vision that Clay had laid out for Ember, it was so far beyond the coffee mug, which has been phenomenal to see the adoption of how people have really gravitated toward it. But as you said, if you start really thinking about, if you walk into any room of your house or start looking at different products, you're like, oh yeah, this would be great if I could control the temperature of X, Y, and Z. So yeah, we've been looking, we do have some new categories. We will be launching a baby bottle, which we've talked about. It is coming, and we're very excited about that. It's going to be a massive game changer. We've also been looking at the cold chain. I don't know how many people in here are familiar with what the cold chain is, but I think it got in the news a little bit more because of the COVID vaccines. You started seeing that come out, but something that we have been looking at for many years, since the beginning of the company. And so how can we use our temperature control technology and put it into, like cooling boxes, how we control the temperature, so we can safely transport things like vaccines or temperatures, any kind of temperature sensitive medicine or material, or even food, like anything that you can think of that needs to be transported in some sort of kind of like refrigeration, is an area that we've been looking at for quite some time. So we'll have some exciting news later this year about that.
That's amazing. I can only imagine. It seems like you're in a good place. So let me switch gears to a few of these questions. Some good ones. So we didn't discuss these. These are not softball questions. So here's one. How should older brands gracefully enter newer technology spaces? Examples like TikTok or esports. So how should old brands enter new spaces in technology?
Interesting. I mean, just speaking like kind of top line about that, I think partnerships is a very smart way. And you see that a lot with brands, with kind of more enterprise, older brands, partnering with younger brands or doing some sort of partnership with brands that might have the technology. I think that is a very, very smart way to kind of merge the benefits that both companies have. So we're a big fan. That's something that we look into, of like what other, like are there other places that we can partner to bring our temperature control technology to them? And then also leverage these larger companies' scale, breadth, and then also enormous amount of expertise. So I think that's a really smart way. How to enter areas like TikTok, I think you need to do your homework. And so we're not on TikTok yet as Ember, and we're still a younger brand, but we're not on TikTok yet. And you need to make sure that you understand the platform, because it can go very wrong if you don't. And no one wants to see, if it feels too much of like an ad and you don't understand that platform, I think it's actually more harm to your brand than good. So I'd almost recommend, if you don't really know what you're doing, you don't understand the platform, you don't have a really smart way to go on it, I would actually recommend not doing it until you have that plan in place, because I think it can be very off-putting to people. If you just see kind of a brand forcing themselves onto a platform just to be there because it's the hot new space to be. And that's why we were, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is social a place that you are or want to be or go into? And do you need an expert in-house to do so? Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We are on Facebook and Instagram for paid advertising. We're looking at TikTok and other channels as well. But I think we're all on these platforms too. So it's sometimes we don't need to overthink it. So you just need to go on the app and use it as a user, as a consumer. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like sometimes marketers just really overthink this, like, oh, what's going to be interesting and how do I market this? And it's like, well, what's interesting to you and how would you want to perceive it? And, how would you react to this kind of ad? And I think for a lot of folks, if we just put yourself in those shoes, it's a lot easier to make those decisions than you might realize.
Yeah, I went on TikTok with my daughter a few times, and that's the brand of myself, and I probably ruined it. So keep by the core.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was. I mean, you'll probably laugh, but it was ridiculous. So
that's so funny. Yeah. And, and if you don't have the content, there's a lot of fantastic creators that can make content for you, right? So I think that was, the other route I would go is find some, content creators that love your product. There's probably already people out there talking about your product. So for us on TikTok, that we know there's several people already using an Ember mug. So why not reach out to them and say, hey, this is fantastic. Can we do some sort of collaboration together? That is the easiest way, and it's going to be organic and it will fit the platform. And I think even in esports, the same way. We've been actually approached many times in the esports area. And it makes sense if a lot of people are drinking coffee, playing hours and hours and hours, but it has to also just be the right time in your brand. And as you and I were saying earlier, you can't be all things to all people at the same time. So you do have to kind of pick and choose and figure out what you can do and when. But I think just do your homework and just kind of find people that are already doing that for you and strike up a collaboration or even a conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, see, what do the people want? How do they use it? I love how you use the data from temperature, all the way to, the size of the mug, what people are saying. It's great. One last question. So Ember, leader, it's the go-to in this category. And clearly you guys are about to do a bunch of other stuff on, seems like a mass scale, but like, what does being a category leader mean to you? Are you looking behind you, over your shoulder? Like, what's that like?
Yeah. It's interesting, right? So there's a lot of education when you're the first one, and you don't have a path carved for you already. So you're having to create that narrative and create that storytelling and also education. But we don't really look behind our shoulder. I think because our company was founded as an innovative company, that is in our DNA from day one. That's how we were founded. We are aware of other brands that are similar to Ember and that are trying to kind of mimic what we're doing, but we also have years and years and years of developing the technology, filing our patents, all of our software development, our IP. So we're pretty far along the game, but we've also really intentionally launched as a premium brand. And so that's why we didn't really touch too much on this, but you know, the design of Ember is so critical to our brand, because we knew right out of the gate, of course, you know, there's going to be people that are going to come out and competitors and kind of, you know, copy, and that'll absolutely happen. And that's not a bad thing. I think, how do you set yourself apart and create an iconic brand from the beginning is really what's going to keep you lasting through the years. And that's what we did from day one. We created a brand that's going to last for well into the future, not just something that we were thinking of, you know, in that particular moment. And you can, I think, see that in the way that we market and the way that we created the design and the product.
Yeah, I just love to hear the vision when you started, and from when Clay 10 years ago to now, it's the same. It's just, that's a very cool way to be, that you didn't have to, you know, you're not pivoting over and over, that type of stuff. So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Hey, guys. Thank you for the great chat and for joining us.
Yeah, this was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel like you guys could have gone a little bit longer. So we might need to do like a round 2 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I know.
And look at this. We're mug buddies. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a new one. I like that. Mug buddies.
Yeah, we might need to do some like Brand Innovators branded mugs. I feel like that's such a good idea.
I think so. I think